So let's talk about that third trimester growth scan. For a lot of parents, it just feels like one last chance to get a sneak peek before the big day arrives. But here's the thing. This scan is so much more than that. It is, without a doubt, one of the most critical checkups of your entire pregnancy. And we're going to get into exactly why.
So is this whole thing really just a photo op? A chance to see if the baby has your nose or your partner's chin? That's what a lot of us think, but honestly, that completely misses the real crucial point of this whole examination.
Here's the truth of it. Think about it this way. Your earlier scans, those were about checking the baby's design, the blueprints. But this scan, this is a full-blown inspection of the production line. We're checking the efficiency of the entire life support system that is growing your baby right now, this very second.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll dig into why this is way more than a photo op. Then, I'm going to teach you how to decode your own scan report. After that, we'll look at what happens when growth goes a little off track. We'll cover your personal toolkit for boosting growth, and finally, we are going to bust some common myths and highlight the red flags you absolutely need to know.
All right, let's kick things off with a big why. The whole point of this scan is to figure out if your baby is hitting their full genetic potential or if they're maybe struggling a bit because of a failing supply chain. And that brings us to a really key medical idea.
And that idea is called placental insufficiency.
Now, if you imagine the placenta as a busy factory, this is what happens when that factory just isn't delivering enough goods. We're talking crucial stuff, like nutrients and oxygen, to your baby. And guess what? The growth scan is our #1 tool for spotting this.
Okay, on to section 2. So you get this report, right? And it's just full of these crazy acronyms and numbers, and it can feel pretty intimidating. But don't worry, we're going to turn all that medical jargon into actual knowledge so you can look at that paper and know exactly what it's saying about your baby's progress.
First thing to look for is the AC, which stands for abdominal circumference. You guys, this is the golden metric. It's the most important one. Why? Because the baby stores energy, fat and glycogen, in their liver, which is right there in the abdomen. So if that AC measurement is starting to lag behind, that's the very first, most sensitive sign that the baby's supply line might not be keeping up.
Next up are the head measurements, BPD and HC. These are all about tracking brain growth. And this is where things get really fascinating. It shows just how incredibly smart your baby's body already is. If resources get a little scarce, the body automatically diverts all the good stuff, the blood, the nutrients, to the brain first. It's a survival mechanism called the brain-sparing effect. So a nice, well-growing head, even with a slightly smaller tummy, is a sign that your baby is protecting its most vital organ. Pretty amazing, right?
Now, all of this is tracked using the percentile system. You'll see numbers like 50th percentile, which just means your baby is average size. But here's the secret. The single number doesn't really matter that much. What your doctor is really watching is the velocity, the trend. Is the baby consistently following their own little growth curve? Or do they suddenly drop from, say, the 70th percentile way down to the 20th? That sudden drop is what really gets their attention.
So what happens when that growth curve does veer off track? Well, this scan can be like a fork in the road, It tells us if we need to take a different path forward. And there are really 2 main scenarios that doctors are looking for.
On one side, if the baby's weight drops below the 10th percentile, that's diagnosed as intrauterine growth restriction, or IUGR. The first thought is that the pipes in the placenta might be a bit clogged, so the very next step is a Doppler scan to actually check the blood flow. Now, on the other side, if the baby is way up above the 90th percentile, that's called macrosomia. This usually means the baby is acting like a little sugar sponge, which is often linked to gestational diabetes. In that case, the immediate action plan is all about managing blood sugars super strictly.
Okay, so hearing that your baby's growth might be lagging, I know that can be really scary. But here is the fantastic news. There is an incredible amount you can do about it. This next section is your toolkit. These are simple but really powerful actions you can start taking literally today.
First up is what we'll call the protein protocol. It's simple. If your baby needs to grow, they need building blocks, and that means protein. The goal is to eat about 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein for every kilogram of your own weight, and focus on great sources like Paneer, Sattu, or good old boiled eggs. The key is to eat a small, protein-rich snack every 3 hours. That keeps the amino acid conveyor belt constantly moving and delivering those building blocks to your baby.
Now look at this number, plus 20%. What on earth could give you a 20% boost with pretty much zero effort?
Believe it or not, that's the increase in blood flow to your placenta you can get just by resting on your left side.
See, when you lie on your left, it takes the weight of your uterus off a really big vein, which instantly improves circulation. Just 20 minutes on your left side after a meal can give a huge growth boost to a baby who needs it. It's an unbelievably high-impact, low-effort technique.
Now, all this technology is great, but let me be clear. You are always the best monitor for your baby. You have to pay close attention to their kicks. A good goal is to feel 3 to 4 movements within an hour after you've had a big meal, and at least 10 movements over a 12-hour stretch. Remember, a sudden drop in movement is a big deal. A quiet baby might just be trying to save energy, and that is something your doctor needs to know about right away.
All right, we're in the home stretch, our final section. Let's tackle some of those common myths and anxieties that always seem to pop up around this time, and then we'll get really clear on the non-negotiable red flags.
Okay, let's just bust this first one wide open. The myth that having a small bump means you're having a small or a weak baby. The reality? Your bump size has way more to do with things like your height, the tone of your ab muscles, and how much amniotic fluid you have than it does with the actual size of your baby. The only real truth is what shows up on that ultrasound screen.
And, oh boy, this next one. This is a persistent and, frankly, a dangerous myth. The idea that drinking ghee will help the baby slide out during delivery. Let's be perfectly clear. Ghee is fat. It goes to your stomach. It does not go to your birth canal. In fact, all that extra fat can actually contribute to having a macrosomic, or an overly large baby, which can make a vaginal delivery much harder.
And finally, let's get serious for a moment. These are the red flags. If you experience any of these, you do not wait for your next appointment, you call your doctor immediately. A significant drop in kicks, making for a silent baby, a sudden gush of watery fluid, severe headaches, especially with blurry vision, or any sudden swelling in your face and hands. These signs always require immediate medical attention. Before we wrap up, I just want to leave you with this really important perspective. A small baby is not a reflection of your mothering, and a large baby isn't some kind of prize for superior health. The goal, the only goal, is a safe delivery and a healthy newborn. That's it. That's the win. So we have covered a ton of ground. You now know why this growth scan is so incredibly important, and you know how to read its key signals. The power is truly in your hands. So the final question I have is for you. Now that you know all this, what's just one small change? Maybe it's adding a protein snack. Maybe it's taking 20 minutes to rest on your left side. What's one small thing you can do today to support your baby on their journey?